What is up, y'all? Welcome back out to the bench in the backyard. My name is Jordan, and this is a pretty old Shimpaku juniper. Really nice tree. It's just a piece of bark. It's not actually. But anyway, so yeah, today this will be getting a new pot. Got this last year down at Plant City Bonsai. I got a few more things from Plant City Bonsai yesterday. He just got in a giant order for Cummins junipers. I got 3 big ones, a little one, and we will be doing those in future videos. They need new pots. So I've got a whole bunch of junipers left to repot. I'm keeping an eye on my dawn redwoods, and I've got some bald cypresses that I'm also going to be doing. The bald cypresses are going in the ground, but I'm just watching for buds to pop on those before that happens. I guess the bald cypresses could just go in the ground. I need some new tiles to plant those on, and then they will be going in the ground. Anyway, this guy, can't really see the whole thing. I can bring it back a little bit and show y'all. But yeah, so we've got really good movement on this first branch. What I'm thinking of doing is ginning most of this, maybe bringing it down to just some stumps. We could probably bend this out and around with some heavy copper, and we'll have to raffia that if we do. And then our tree would be this right here. So it would be basically just that. Well, of course you still can't see it. So it would be just that part. So we're going to be working on that. This needs a pot. I've got 2 pots picked out. I've got a couple other pots that it could go in if we get this root mass spread out a little bit more. But first thing that we got to do is get this up out of the pot. So something tells me this has an awful lot of roots down in it. It was having some percolation issues last year. So this root mass is probably extremely dense. It's got a fairly decent nabari up here. But we're going to need to come in here and just work out our sides. We've got some really nice white tips on some of these roots, so that is a good sign. I did get into a dry spot right here. The rest of the root ball seems fine, but there is that little dry spot, so I might have lost some roots on that side. But that is a problem that you get when you have percolation issues. The water just finds the easiest way to the bottom of the pot. And you'll find hollows and holes like that where it's just not getting any water. The roots seem okay here though. Like the root tips even in this dry area I don't know if you can see it, but you can actually see in here there is still white wood. So yeah, I just so the roots are still alive in that area, which you wouldn't really I wouldn't really expect to see. I mean, maybe if I get back farther in, it's not going to be like that. We'll have dead roots. But these right here seem okay. The center of this root mass is pretty dry. But I mean, all the roots right here in the middle where it is dry are still alive somehow. And I guess they were growing out here into the outside of the root ball. And where it is wet, it's still getting fed somehow. I guess that's the only thing I can think of. This thing should have probably been repotted last year. I didn't have it last year, so this is that dry hole again. I'm back around to it. But you can tell it's a lot, the roots are a lot coarser right here. So the soil's actually coming out a lot easier. Just taking out the really coarse roots. Leaving all the finer roots. We'll see what we do with all that once we get this to the point that it's ready to get potted. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to get all of that dry soil out of the middle of this, because if I don't, because this the rest of the soil is going to be a bonsai aggregate, that center will never get water. It'll never get water. It'll never get oxygen, and it'll just die off. And being that it's in the very middle of the roots, it could wind up killing off this whole tree, and that would be horrible, because this is probably the most money that I've spent on a single tree. Is this one and the other one. They were both the same price, and I just would not like to lose my two most expensive trees. The other one percolated a little bit better, so I'm hoping that the center is not super dry on it. But that one's getting planted as a raft. So this root came from the outside of the root ball, and this root is right there in the middle. So you can tell they're a lot coarser in here because, I mean, they're not really getting any water, so they're extending as fast as they can to try and get either to the outside or down to the bottom of the pot where there was water. And so they're super coarse, which means they're not very good at drinking that water up. They can move a lot of water, but they're not like actually sucking water in. So if we can get up here towards the top where the soil is actually still moist, then I can replace that with bonsai aggregate, and we can start building the center of this root ball, which is super important on junipers. You gotta have that nice, I'm starting to, I think we're there. So we've cut that root ball not quite in half, with a little bit of dry soil. But yeah, there we are. All right, so all that dry soil is out. Now we're just going to come in here, trim out some of these larger roots. But I mean, you can see everything that I'm cutting out, super coarse, much coarser than what is out here on the outside. And you've got some stuff that's really thick with big giant coarse roots coming off of it. Now that we got that stuff out of the way, I mean, it's right there. And now we're just roughing up the outside, roughing up the top. Now we just need to bring this side down so that it sits fairly even. All right, that's about as far as I want to take it. You just want to make sure that there are roots all the way out around so that they can grow into our substrate instead of just getting pressed back into the root ball. All right, and now the question is, did we eliminate enough roots to, instead of getting it in that one that you've been seeing, get it in the one that's behind it? Probably not, because it's a tad bit shallower, but we can always check. It's not that much shallower. Well, it's about half the size, so it's probably not going to fit. Maybe for the next time, though. I mean, well, the problem is it needs to sit more like that. Which, if we tuck it up right there below the lip, about like that. Could I build a little mound? Because this is going to be our apex. This right here is going to get pulled down, hopefully, if I can bend it. Maybe. That's going to take a lot of raffia, and I might have to get some 6-gauge wire. I mean, eventually we might be able to get into this pot next time once we can reduce this root mass a little bit more. But I think it's going to have to go in this one, at least for now. I don't want to take any more soil out of this. It's going to have to go into the bigger pot. All right, so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be connecting these two right here and right here, and we're going to use our chopsticks to tie it in. So I need we're coming in with just our normal aeration layer. So that's going to be our 111 pumice, akadama, and lava rock. That we just take all of the anything that's over 3/8 of an inch. Then we're going to come in, put down our normal layer, build up a little cone in the center. So we're going to take this this hole that we excavated up in here, set that right down on top of it. We're going to slide away and then back towards the side that we're going to be planting it towards. About like that. And when we're doing this, we want to make sure that we look from the side as well, so that we're not all in one plane. You know, if we had planted it so that this side was towards the front, then it would just be this flat angle, especially once we get rid of Well, does it want to be a windswept tree? If we were going to do that, it would need to be potted on the other side of the pot. We could gin this. So we had a little stub here, slightly longer stub there, stub here, and then gin this whole part. And we could actually go everything going this way. We'd keep that, gin this off back here. Well, since we know this isn't in the pot that it's going to be living in forever, we can go ahead and plant it like this, and then we'll worry about that later when we do repot. Well, when we design, which will either be this August or next year, depending on how well it recovers. And by pounding in that chopstick, we can use it to tie down to, instead of tying into the roots. There we go. Our first trip around, we're basically just trying to get soil in between the roots and the walls of the pot. So mixing up our top dressing, it's screen sphagnum and green moss. And we're just going to go around the outside. Pack it kind of loose, because when we come back in here and put a little bit more bonsai substrate on it, it'll kind of lock it in. And that way we won't get any erosion out here. We won't have the soil moving around and killing off the roots that are growing up here near the top, which is the ones that you see. So we want to keep them around. So there we are. And we just come in with a little bit of soil. Now we'll go wash it, water it in. So the only place that I didn't have any soil stick was right here around the trunk, where I didn't have any top dressing, or didn't have any of sphagnum and green moss. So I just put a little bit of sphagnum around it. We'll press in a little bit of soil on top of that we just put down. Now that shouldn't move. We got this nice little repot done. Only took like 2 hours, which is about what I figured it would take on this tree. And there we go. So that should be the front right there, looking at you. We may bring it as a windswept. Bring these down and out. Probably gonna have to do something about that guy. I fell off my bench about a month ago and snapped off a branch right there. But quick little spin around. That could also be a front. I mean, it's got 2 fronts for sure. Don't really want it coming at you that much. We could bring it over to this corner right here, just using this branch. Again, ginning all of this off. So either that or that is the front if this is our tree, or that if we're going to do windswept over here. So, yeah, really compacted roots. Probably should have been done last year, but I did not have it last spring. Yeah, had to do it this year. Like I said, the middle of that root ball, like the dead center of that root ball, was really dry. Luckily the roots were long enough in that center that basically the tips of those roots were just feeding the rest of the roots, and they just coarsened up a lot. The outside of the root ball looked fantastic. I mean, it was really fine feeder roots, so the outside was doing fine, but when it lost percolation, it lost the ability to basically fill that center of the root ball with water, because the water would just find, oh, hey, there's a little pack over here where I can run through real quick and get away. And so it just would not soak and penetrate the center of that root ball. So that was definitely needed today. I'm going to do the other one probably tomorrow. I've got to build a box for it, because we are going to be laying that one down and turning it into a raft. So yeah, if you liked what you saw today, go ahead, like, subscribe, all of that fun stuff down below. If you didn't like it, or you have a comment on whether we should do the windswept or just use this branch right here and gin all the rest of that off, either way, I don't really care. I think both of them would make pretty decent trees. It would probably make more sense to use this branch right here and gin that, rather than to turn it into a windswept, just because of the direction that the trunk comes up out of the soil. I mean, in order to get it to where that trunk would go that way, I guess we could kind of turn it side on like that, because you get a little bit of turn right here where it's not exactly straight up this way. It does go that way a little bit. So that would be a possibility. Otherwise, if the tree is going to be leaning over like this, this would make more sense as the apex of the tree, and we could either gin all of this off, or gin most of it off, and go from there. So until the next time I see y'all out at the bench in the backyard, just remember to grow them big, but keep them small.